I'm Adrienne Ciskey, and my favorite thing to do is to play God in The Sims.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. It is very late on Sunday night, and I know that some of you are not going to see this until Monday morning because I don't know what happened to the weekend, but I did not keep my normal schedule. So this is coming to you late on Sunday evening, but maybe you have tomorrow off for Indigenous Peoples Day, and so it'll be your Sunday of the extended weekend. I'm also a little bit late because tonight it's my homecoming weekend for college, but obviously there's no going on campus this year. I went to Millikan University in Decatur, Illinois, graduated in 1999. This weekend, because they were doing all virtual reunion activities, Jan DeVore, who is legendary if you went to Millikan, for her work first in housing and then in the alumni office. So she organized a hall director, an RA, a housing reunion on Zoom tonight. So I got to see my RA for my freshman year, people that I was on staff with in BWA, people that I was on staff with in Oakland Hessler. It was really fun. Also catching up with people who live 3 blocks away from me in Chicago. And since COVID, we don't run into each other much anymore. But one of the things that was really exciting, and I'll put the link in the show notes, and I'm going to see if I can get him on the podcast. Jarrett Johnson, who was an RA maybe 98, 99 when I wasn't on staff anymore. He's a vocal performer based in LA, went to Millikan, and he is maybe up for a Grammy, or he's submitting himself for a Grammy this year for his arrangement of Lift Every Voice and Sing. And he's got this video on YouTube that features Alvin Che from Take 6 singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, and it is stunning. And I know of no legal way to put the music on my podcast right now. So I'm just going to put the link in the show notes, and you should go look it up. So look on YouTube, search for Jarrett, Jarrett Johnson, Lift Every Voice, and you'll find this video. And it is stunning. So that was really fun to meet someone that I went to college with but didn't know in college and see something remarkable that they're doing today. And I mean, it was truly a trip down memory lane and makes me really miss in-person reunions. A few years ago, Fort Lewis College, which is where I was a hall director after Millikan, they did an all-housing reunion that I flew down to Durango, Colorado for. It's probably been 5 years now, but it was so much fun because a whole bunch of the hall directors of my years on campus and our RAs all came back, and it was such a blast. So I hope that if you are an alumni of anything, that, you know, it's still COVID. We're still not going anywhere. We're still not doing things. So don't forget to schedule your Zoom social hours. So this week on, kind of speaking of Zoom social hours, my interview today is with Adrienne Ciskey. She is Solar Power Spork on Twitter. I'll link obviously to her in the chat, or I'll link to her in the show notes. Adrienne and I are old school Twitter friends from the very beginning. We worked together briefly at a startup. We've celebrated together in person and virtually, and you'll hear us describe, like, we have that kind of friendship now. There's a few parties every year that we see each other at. My Hanukkah party, our friend Terry has parties. Terry Gant, who was my guest at the very beginning of the podcast, Terry has parties. So I see Adrienne, her husband Dan, a few times a year at parties of people that were friends, have mutuals. And with COVID, I'm not going to get to have my Hanukkah party this year unless I figure out how to cook latkes in the backyard. And so, that's a bummer. So it was just really fun to get some dedicated time with her on Zoom. This one is really fun. We're talking about the game Sims, which I apparently knew nothing about going into it. Like a lot of things, I gather what I know from memes on Tumblr. and I had not quite gathered the right information about Sims. But she schools me, and I'm pretty sure that I'll also release a show and tell episode that's just us doing a shared screen, looking at cow plants, and then other things that didn't translate well for this interview, but I'll try and drop another one of those this week. So as we go into this week, that might be a short week for you. If you are Jewish and you've just been wrapping up the holidays, and you're probably feeling the crush of, it's my first full week back. So I will keep it short. Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay home, and stay safe. And keep enjoying your favorite things. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones. This is the podcast where we talk about people's favorite things, how they found it, and we get recommendations without using an algorithm. I am so excited today to have one of my original Chicago Twitter friends, Adrienne Ciskey, here with me. How are you doing today, Adrienne?
I'm wonderful. A little tired, but that's okay.
Yeah, it is. Suddenly it's getting dark. I don't know when it happened.
It happens every year, and I have this moment, and it's always right. It's like Rosh Hashanah. You're just like, It's fall. It's happening.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's dark at 4 again.
I know.
Time to be sad.
There was a moment this afternoon because my desk faces south, and there was a point this afternoon when the sun was in my eyes, and I was like, I don't get sun in my eyes at this desk. And I was like, oh,
no, yeah,
maybe
will.
I do now. Maybe that's what happens now.
Yep. Or you get certain breezes. I have a cross breeze now that I don't normally have, which is great because I love when it gets to be cold in the house and I can put a sweater on without having to have the AC cranked to, 11.
Yeah, this is my first night. I've got I was like, I think it's a Blackhawks. I've got my Blackhawks hoodie on. I've got a hot tea made. Yeah.
I should have made a tea.
It's, that is where we're at. So how are you doing?
Good. We're going to talk about my all-time favorite thing, which until recently I was kind of embarrassed to talk about. So it's weird to go from having a little private hobby to this big thing where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to talk about it on a podcast.
I'm so excited. Before we get there, how are you guys? We're 6 months into the Great Pause. This podcast is my COVID hobby. I was like, I want to talk to people. I don't get to some tweet went by that was about missing the casual interactions of people that you see twice a year at parties. And I was like, yeah, I'm missing those people. I'm missing getting to sit in the corner of a party and have a long conversation with people I see 2 or 3 times a year. So, and while we have worked together in the past, we have become we see each other socially a few times a year, and I miss seeing you. So how are you?
I'm good. I actually was thinking before I even messaged you being like, hey, can I go on your podcast? Which, felt very invasive of me, but I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad.
I was thinking, I was like, shoot, Hanukkah's going to happen and there's going to be no lockup party.
I know.
What do I do with this information? But no, I'm doing as well as I think you can be in the situation. My husband has to be exposed all the time. That's the hardest thing to come to terms with. And then the guilt of having to send my child to daycare because of that. But otherwise, my job was able to transition fairly well into remote. And it was a new, I'd only been at the job for 3-4 months at that point. So,
wow. Yeah.
Oh, and we've hired people. We've had people quit that we never saw because.
Oh, you've had people come and go.
Yeah.
From the team.
I ended up, there was one woman that we hired. Her first day was the first day we went remote. So she literally showed up to the office and my boss met her there and was like, here's your laptop. See you later.
That's brutal.
Yeah. And then she had applied to her dream job right before she applied with us. And we went really quickly through the hiring process. She ended up getting her dream job. And so she moved on right after Labor Day, which stunk because now no. But yeah, I mean, and she wasn't the only one at my job. We had a pretty high turnover right now just because this is stressful for people.
It's so stressful. I think every person, okay, not every person, anyone with an ounce of empathy can look at other people and say, like, it is hard on all of us, but it's hard on all of us in different ways.
Exactly.
Right?
And yeah. I mean, some people just can't right now. And
yeah,
I'm trying to, some of my jobs, I sometimes customer service, like tier 2 customer service type thing. And 95% of the time I can tell myself this is hard for everybody. But yeah, like everyone handles this differently. And I think a lot of people have been overall pretty understanding. There's some people, without getting too talking about COVID, but, there's some people who they're able to do things differently than we are. And, they like to put their guilt on, or some people have to do it differently. I have to send my child to daycare or I don't work. I shouldn't feel guilty about that. But
no, I think there's a whole lot of conversations about not just risk tolerance, but like risk profiles. Like, what is the risk profile for your family in order for you to stay housed and fed and like out of more debt? Like, we all have to make decisions.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, if there's something that we can do out of this, and I'm lucky that I have a job that allows me to be a little more forward leading than I used to be at jobs, so that, it's exciting to think that I can put that perspective to other people. And we're having an event that I'm actually going to use that phrase at, the risk profiling, because, that is something to think about. So you just helped my job too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take that.
Is it free advice? Because we can't pay.
Yes, it's free advice. And I go back to full-time work tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
So all my advice is free now. Because I can't have an outside job.
Once you no longer have to make advising people your income, it's so much easier to just dole out advice and be like, oh, I know exactly what I don't.
I'm so exciting.
Clue.
Yeah.
Not like I'm suddenly more qualified. I'm not qualified for anything but this talk.
Well,
I'm so excited.
I am not going to hold you back anymore because you are so excited.
I'm like bouncing in my chair for people who can't see. You're bouncing in your chair.
And I feel like any other questions would just be a misdirect. And you're like, I have an outline, Leah.
No, I mean, I'm not that much of a Virgo. I mean, I'm a Virgo, but not that much of a Virgo.
So, Adrienne, what are we here to talk about today?
The Sims. Yes.
The Sims. So the computer game.
Yes.
The Sims.
The Sims.
Can I tell you what I know about The Sims? And then
And then I'll be really excited to tell you more.
Yes. So The Sims, I think it's been around for like 20 years.
Yes, exactly. 20 years.
Oh, and I imagine it's like digital Legos, except they do things when the computer's off and they have lives and grow up and things happen. And if you don't go to your Sims enough, things self-destruct. That's what I know about Sims.
I mean, you got some of that right. And the answer that you have right is they'd self-destruct.
Okay.
Everything else about that, I don't want to say it's incorrect, but is not how the gameplay works.
But you can understand how I would have gleaned that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
From memes on Tumblr.
Yes. Absolutely. Like, I think most people who get into The Sims get into it at first because they're like, oh, I can remove a ladder from a pool and kill my Sim by drowning. Like, everyone has that little moment. And then it's where you go from there that makes it an exciting game because you can go in all these different directions.
So is it a game with, well, I have so many questions. Are there points?
No.
Is it okay? So it's like Minecraft in that there's
Open world sandbox.
Open world. Okay.
That's the words from a game design perspective. It's an open world sandbox.
Okay. And is it collaborative like Animal Crossing where you work with other people? Okay, so no, Sims is like you have Adrienne's Sims world.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a solo open world sandbox.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the very basic.
Great.
And it's at the most basic level, it's a life simulation is what they would call it.
All right. So tell me about the first time you played Sims. How did you find it?
Definitely was 16 years old and into video games. And from there, you're just like, I think I was playing SimCity a lot at the time. And it's the same developer, same creator. Will Wright is his name. See, look at me. I know that dropping facts.
Yeah. Name
drop. But I was really into SimCity and Railroad Tycoon and like those type of buildy games. Okay. And saw the Sims come up in like, an ad that's on the side of the box for SimCity and was like, what's this, Mom and Dad? I would like to buy it. And, it kind of just spiraled from there. And it's now on Sims 4.
Okay.
So it's the 4th iteration, and that came out like 6 years ago.
Okay.
So the game's got a pretty long lifespan, which is what I like about it so much. You never hear about games that continue to iterate, but also stay in the same version for so long.
Yeah.
So you can really like deep dive on your own game.
So you're playing it like on your PC or your desktop, right?
Yeah, I play it on my computer.
Okay.
And yeah.
And you've been building the world you're currently building for 4 years, or sometimes you like wipe yourself out and start over?
Wipe myself out and start over. I've been working on, they call it a save file in Sims terms, because it's a neighborhood that's already built. So the world itself is built and you're building the houses and households inside of it.
Okay.
So you're given empty lots, or they come with pre-built lots because, some people don't care about that aspect of it, which is what's cool about the Sims. You can get multiple avenues, right? I used to just play, and then about a year ago, I really got into building. So I wiped my entire save clean, wiped out all the lots, which is like hundreds of lots at this point, and starting from scratch and building them all and then putting a family in there. And then walking away and building the next thing and never touching families right now. So okay. So when you played before, you were being God to the people in the houses, but you didn't care about the houses they lived in. Yes, it was. Yeah, just I was worried. It's like there's 3 different types of players. If according to the Sims themselves, according to the developers, there's the builder, the storyteller, and the game player. The builder is pretty self-explanatory. You build houses. Wow. The storyteller usually keeps on one family the entire time and like plays through generations of that family. Is a family in one house, or can a family move to more than one house? The family can move. There's this idea of playing like a legacy with quotes around it, where you start with one person and they have kids and you play the firstborn of that family when they move, when your first head of household dies. Okay. So you're kind of like mini kingdom in a sense. So those are the story players. And then there are the game players, which this is, I don't want to say relatively new for the Sims, but more something that they've cared about for Sims 4 compared to other ones, whereas they're actually giving you a game to play. Giving you beyond the open world. So there's expansion packs that have you going to the jungle and being an archaeologist. There's one where you're investigating aliens, things like that. So those are the game players who are actually sitting there. The newest pack, which is very controversial, is Star Wars. Oh. And you go and you can either, it's a very hard topic, and it just came out like a few weeks ago. So people are like, why'd you do this to us? And then other people are like, it's a thing. It's a thing, just like in every hobby, right? Like there's always some drama.
Right.
But, you can be the First Order, you can be the Resistance, like I think, which is different for The Sims for sure, because it's always been its own self-contained universe.
Right.
And now it's what Star Wars is here.
Right.
So.
But you don't have to buy the expansion pack for Star Wars.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Is it required? Yes, is it like a U2 album? You woke up one day and it was Star Wars?
Journey to Batuu is here. No, I mean, of course you don't have to buy it, but then you know how any hobby goes once they start really getting in, and then they think the players think they can control everything about the situation and don't think of it as, I just don't have to buy this. No, they have to buy it because they have every other expansion.
Yeah. And
I've already sunk $700 into this game. I need to sink another 20. You don't.
Yeah. And it's also really taking, so there's like any normal fandom with like people who are hardcore obsessed, who are the core of the fandom. And then there's the Star Wars fandom. So you're taking two.
They're attempting to do something, my theory on it. And this is doesn't come based in anything other than, me speculating based on being a fan and also knowing a little bit about how game design works, is that EA, Electronic Arts, the people who own The Sims, also own the part of, like, Disney gave them the property of Star Wars for video games. Because Disney doesn't make their own video games, right?
Right.
So they need somebody to do it. They gave it to Electronic Arts. I believe that Electronic Arts wanted to make a Star Wars life simulator. Didn't have the manpower behind, why start from scratch when The Sims exists? So throw it on the Sims engine, make it part of the game, and now you have a whole bunch of people coming in and buying The Sims.
Yeah. And I bet when they look at their budget for development, Star Wars is going to fund Sims 5.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Star Wars is going to do Sims 5. And, there's others. They're not at the end of life for Sims 4 yet either.
How long do they... Right. Because I feel like other games, it feels like, well, I guess a lot of other games you finish. They're not open world.
Right. They're not open world. And, even some of the bigger ones come out every 2 to 3 years, right? The only ones you really hear about taking longer than that are the ones that come from smaller studios that have less people. But you think of like a Call of Duty or, one of those big money makers every 2 years because you need to keep the content fresh.
Yeah.
The Sims does it through expansions.
Okay. When you log into your save, do you log into Sims 4 or do you have like some expansion packs or like?
I have so there's 3 different types of packs, which makes it even more complicated. The most expensive is expansion pack that changes something about the world.
Okay.
There's a game pack, which allows you to do something. So that's the alien one, the archaeology one.
Okay.
You do something. There's like a magic one, something you do. And then there's stuff packs, which is literally stuff, objects.
It's like a catalog.
Yeah. Like objects and stuff.
And so is that so like you don't have to make the objects, or is it the only way to get the objects?
That's a loaded question. Little did you know, there's an entire world that I haven't even touched on of modding and custom content.
Okay. So
the game is changeable by not just EA. The game is changeable by its fan base. And we'll get into that later. Like it's an interesting world, but we still haven't grokked the entire Sims.
I'm working on it.
No, and it's fine. It's weird. So there's these 3 different types of how you get more content in the end for the game. And I have almost all of it. I'm missing 2 of the smallest ones just because they didn't interest me. I don't care about, there's literally one called Spooky.
It's just like a Halloween pack to get ghosts and spiders and stuff.
It's literally just like pumpkin carving and pumpkins and like Halloween decorations for the outside of your Sims house. Like I'll probably eventually get it because it'll be nice to see that I eventually have all of the icons. But like I'll wait till it's on sale. I'm not in a hurry. But there are a lot of people, again, who are in a hurry and want to have it all. But yeah, when I open up the game, I'm normally opening up. I haven't opened up the game and I feel really bad about this, but like 2 weeks because there's been some custom content drama because that's a sentence that I can say. EA patches the game. They do it once a month and they do it once a month and normally ahead of big releases, just to make sure that the game is still compatible. And also for the people who bought the free or bought the base game and don't want to have to buy more, this does give content in updates.
That's nice. So it's not just it's not like a patch you get on like a mobile game where it's just to like get you to remember you have the app on your phone. It's like, it means something to people.
Yeah, it means something to people. It's supposed to fix bugs first and foremost. They're iffy on that, but like, tell me a game that doesn't have iffy bug releasing.
So this latest patch update
broke all of the custom content windows and doors. So all of the items in games that are windows and doors made by outside people don't work. So does that mean there's like an X on your house, or that you can't walk through the door, or that when you open your universe, it doesn't open? So in this case, it can. It depends on the things, right? In this case, the windows.
Do I sound like a grandparent?
No.
Okay.
No. The windows are not transparent, and the doors are not transparent. So you're seeing the wall instead of you're seeing like a frame. It's like, imagine a picture frame on the wall where you had no picture in it.
Yeah.
That is what every window and door currently looks like if you have custom content. Because they changed it used to be, if you want to get really technical about it, because I decided to look it up.
I want to get real technical about it. Yeah.
For this, it used to be that they would actually physically cut out a window from the graphic. So the graphic itself, like, it would just be the frame, right? And what people can't see is I'm making like a little frame in the air, but you could see through it, and that it was a transparency thing. Now it's some algorithm. They wanted to be able to let people stack things and move them together and make custom windows out of their regular windows. And so that required an algorithm. None of the custom content has that algorithm. All of it has to get programmed in.
So if you don't open your Sims after this patch, is your goal to wait till the next patch to open it?
Mine's broken.
Yours is broken. Okay.
Yeah. Mine's broken. I have it do auto updates, and I knew I was going to buy Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the Star Wars pack I was like, screw that. I want to build a cantina. Yeah. Like, screw you. Like, that sounds awesome to me as a Star Wars fan.
It sounds super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to build a droid. Hell yeah, buddy. So
it's why those Lego kits of like the Star Wars Lego kits are popular, is because they have the special pieces and the right colors.
Yeah, it's all correct. And so I wanted it. I knew I was going to get it because it was right around my birthday. So it was going to be a birthday gift to myself. And so I had to patch the game because you have to do the patch before you download. And then it broke. And so that sucks. I could build without custom content, but then that's another can of worms, in the sense that like I have now become sadly addicted to what people have been doing on the outside of the game. So you've got this entire world, and it like exists on Patreon. Like, that's how serious this gets. Okay. I actually pledged someone on Patreon for their custom content. But they can, use stuff in game and recolor it and make their own objects if you have Blender, which is like a rendering program. Yeah. Like, people sit there and they make it, or they make mods. Like, the game is rated T for teens, so they talk about woohoo, but they can't like show you naked bodies. Yeah. This is beyond what I would want to play. But like, there's people who make mods to like get rid of the pixelization over the nudity, or to make them do. There's one that's like literally you can be a drug dealer. That's
the mod you can buy.
Yeah. That one I think is free, but like, people, that's what people do. Like, some people, that's the way they want to play it. And that's why I love The Sims so much. I don't want to play that way, but I want to support people who do.
So I guess I mostly know Patreon through podcasts. and like activists. So you follow someone on Patreon and you've pledged to them. And so at whatever monthly level, you get access to like whatever that custom content is, and it's code that you're downloading to your like Sims warehouse.
Yeah, like so it's files that you put in a folder.
Okay.
The cool thing about The Sims is that they want you to mod. They don't want to support it, but they want you to have that option, which I don't think, I mean, a lot of games have that, but like, I can't think of one that's always been like that. Like this has been that way since The Sims 2.
Yeah. So
it's like part of the game and you just drop it in a folder. I mean, they've made it super easy. You download the file, drop it in a folder and it's in the game. Like,
so they're not, it's not technically an open source game, but they like, appreciate certain parts of open source.
Right. There's tools that exist that allow for the file to get, basically you make the file whatever you need. Like, I don't understand this that well, but like you code it or you make it in Blender or whatever you're doing and you throw it through their program and it turns into whatever file it needs. It's like, it's called like a package file.
Huh.
And you just drop it in.
That's so cool.
So yeah. So every month I get from, her username is Hey Harry. Every month I get, like, she mainly does furniture and she just did countertops, which are one of the hardest things to create in game, it turns out.
Huh.
Because of the actions.
Angle or
the actions that it requires so many actions and so many animations that even
to be
the
able
Sims,
to like set something on it.
Yep. To set something on it, all the different, like, okay, if a pot's on it, it looks like this. If a plate's on it, it looks like this, like all of that stuff. Like, yeah, I didn't even know. Once I became a Patreon of Harry, I was able to see, like, she talks about her process and I was like, oh, that explains a lot of why the game even doesn't release counters that often. Like, it took her for like 2 months to make counters and it's her full-time job.
So when you open your Sims today, all your doors and windows are broken.
Yeah.
Does that mean your people are trapped in their house?
No, the actual like Sims can walk through it and stuff. It's just an aesthetic problem.
Okay.
My Sims are fine.
Good. Okay.
I only have one Sim.
You only have one Sim.
Her name is Izumi.
Okay.
And Izumi Yakamoto, and she's a realtor. And the reason I made her is that you have to go player test everything before you upload it to what's called the gallery if you want to share your creations, because that's another thing you can do. And so I needed a Sim to play test everything, so I decided to make a realtor.
I love it.
And so it's not a real thing you can have in the game, but you can have, like, you register with the Ministry of Labor. You register your Sim, and so I registered her as an independent contracting realtor. And I just give her money every so often through a cheat. And pretend that it's the commission from selling the latest thing I built.
That is so fantastic. So your world is full of houses that you've built that don't have windows or doors.
Currently, no.
But will those people put their algorithm in and then, like, you'll get an update, or are you going to have to go swap out your windows and doors?
They're all waiting for what's called a batch fix from one of the people who makes the program to package things. It's called Sims 4 Studio, is working on doing a batch fix, and I can either go download all again, or I can just download Sim Studio, do the batch fix myself, and then I don't have to do anything. So
perfect.
I will learn that. Yeah, I'm like, I will learn that so I don't have to go through. And I mean, I've got a lot. I don't have as much as most people, but I have like maybe 5 or 6 gigs of custom content, and there's people who have 90.
Wow. So remind me again, how long ago did you wipe it out and start over to build?
About a year.
Okay. So how many houses are now in your save file?
Probably around 20, maybe closer to 30, because what I started doing this summer when COVID happened, so like this spring, a friend of mine, Cassidy, and I were talking about Sims, and we decided to start giving each other build challenges just to like build prompts that we would both do. So it was, something fun to do with a friend, and we're still doing them. So I have some of her stuff in mind too, but there's also like 200 plots, so I have a long way to go.
Okay.
I've just scratched the surface.
Do you have a style you like to build, or like, or is that why you challenge each other? Because you're like,
That's
this month we're building a ranch.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to do, which a lot of people don't do, and it's so nerdy, but like I also love architecture and everything like that. Each world is stylized in some way based on real architecture. So what I'm doing is trying to match the backgrounds. So like, for example, one of the worlds is based on New Orleans. So I'm trying, and that's not my comfort zone at all. If I was going to make stuff just at random, I would do like really mid-century modern to contemporary type stuff. But there's one that's like New Orleans, and then there's one that just looks blank.
Yeah.
And so I'm making it look like Chicago.
Nice. Okay.
So I've done like a 2-flat, a 3-flat, a relief cottage, which is what they made people after the Chicago fire.
Yeah. Those little wooden houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
The little wooden cottages they made. There's like 3 of them left in the city.
Right.
And so I made one.
Very cool.
And, so it gives me a chance to go through Pinterest and like actually get myself an architecture lesson. And there's actually a guy on YouTube who is an architect, and he's from the Philippines.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of like Asian inspired stuff that like I get to learn about traditional Filipino homes, or like traditional, he studied a lot of Japanese architecture was his thing. I've learned so much about Japanese architecture. I've started doing some of it in The Sims, but like learning about like why their rooms are laid out the way it is and stuff like that. Like I get that. And that's why I love it so much. Like that is cool.
Tell me a little bit about when you build a house from scratch. Mm-hmm. You have your lot, and then you pick a background, or is your like? You find what lot you want in the world. Okay.
It's like a map, and you're like, okay, I'm going to build on this lot of varying size. Which is based in squares.
Okay. So you might go to lot 27, and it's a New Orleans style lot, and you build to that?
Yep.
Okay. And then do you start by like drawing your footprint and you build up, or like...
I normally build the outside.
Okay.
I build the outside. I put the facade up. So like the, wallpapers, and by that it's, bricks, whatever. It's just called wallpaper because you just start with like a blank drywall. That's 1 square wide. You pick your height. You have 3 different heights of wall. I normally build outside, do the whole thing, put in my windows, put in, make sure I have the shape I want, and then go do the floor plan.
Cool.
Which is not how everyone does. I've seen on YouTube people who do floor plans and then figure it out. But no, I do the outside of the house first.
Because then so when you are building the inside of the house, is it from the point of view of your sim?
No, you have a build mode that is.
So it's not a sim with like a GoPro on their forehead.
No. You can, and they have that option for when you play, but I never do that. I never do first person. I always do third person. But yeah, you have a bird's eye and you have a camera that you can move around to make sure, you see it from all the angles that you need. But I normally just do top down.
That's so cool. And what is your like fastest build record? What's your land speed record? And then what is like your most intricate, what's the one that you've put the most time in?
So land speed record, my friend Cassidy that I mentioned earlier, and I tried to do 10-minute challenge.
What?
So we tried to build a house in 10 minutes.
What did you end up with?
A piece of shit.
Okay.
It was awful, with like a toilet and that was just like an open shower. And I'm pretty sure I forgot a garbage can. I forgot the mailbox. I forgot. I did put doors. I had all the doors. What else did I do? I did everything wrong. I think the kitchen was only half done. I definitely didn't have anything for the sim to do. I really fucked that one in the ass. It was real hard. 10 minutes is not enough time. And the most intricate I've done, I did a Art Deco-ish celebrity mansion.
Ooh.
With like a butler suite and stuff. That took 20 hours maybe.
Yeah.
It took like a week of solid playing. Or maybe like they did an expansion that's university and you can build a dorm.
Oh, wow.
And that took a while too. So I built the dorm and because everyone was making these dorms that were like way too big. They would just be too many squares. And I'd be like, your Sims can walk around in there. That's not how a college dorm works.
Oh, they were building big. No. Two twin beds.
Yeah, two beds like this far apart. Like, so I made like a realistic dorm. Clutter everywhere.
Nice. So were you building like multiple dorm rooms next to each other?
Yeah,
like a whole dorm, a whole residence hall?
So the way that lot is set up is that it's actually the top of an existing shell of a building.
Okay.
So you can build the top of the building. I did that. And then I did it twice. I copied it over because there's two dorms on campus. And I was like, I ain't doing this again. But yeah. And then, giving every set of roommates a little bit of personality. Like that's my favorite part, like cluttering it up with okay, this student in my mind would be the RA. Yeah. So the RAs get their own singles that are very skinny, but they don't have to share them. And they all have school spirit.
You're not lying. I was an RA and you're describing my life. Yeah.
And so you have the RA and, split into girls side, boys side with the bathrooms in the middle with the stalls and crappy showers. The only luxury I gave them was kind of like a little kitchen area, which was a crappy fridge and a microwave and a coffee maker type situation. Yeah. And then the bathrooms, I did give them a paid washer dryer. Oh, yeah.
Which, didn't have to go to the basement.
Luxury. I can't think of a dorm that had it in your residence area.
No.
Yeah. No. So that was the only luxury I gave them because I had enough room where I was like, I could put 2 washers and 2 dryers here and have room.
Yeah.
But I made sure it was the ones with the coin slots. And to make sure it was the coin slot because hell, you're getting free laundry on campus.
Right. No.
You can design not just houses. There's one lot on that world that it came pre-made as dining hall.
Wow. So you're putting in the tables, the trays, the food.
Well, the counter. The counter where then a sim gets hired.
Okay.
You go and you interact with the counter and it's okay, we're going to hire the caterer or hire the cafeteria staff and it's there.
That's cool. So then in your save file, you will have some lots that are Star Wars.
So yes, they have a little world it's Batu for people who watch Star Wars. It's the one that they use for the Disney ride. So they've made the Disney ride as a world within there. Technically in that world, you can't build, but there's ways around it with cheat codes. So you can build a resistance base, you could build a first order area, or you could I think you can rebuild the cantina. I haven't tried it yet. I've left that one alone just in case, because there's one other expansion pack where if you bulldoze everything, you have to, or 2 different expansion packs that this happens with. If you bulldoze everything, you have to remake it a certain way to make it the actual gameplay work. So in the Magic one, you have to put certain rugs down in certain areas. It's real weird. I haven't figured it out and I shouldn't have bulldozed it. I regret everything about my choice. So you have to put a certain rug in a certain area in order to make a wizard spawn there. And you have to have the wizard spawn there in order to get magic.
Oh. So are you still looking for the rug? Or
I'm just going to download a lot eventually from the gallery. I've just been lazy on that one. And then there's in the one with the aliens, if you don't have a bar on a certain lot, you have to make sure you keep the lot saved as a bar instead of switching it over to something else.
A drinking bar?
Yeah, a juice bar.
A juice bar.
A juice bar.
Right. It's for teens.
This is tea. Juice.
Wait, the aliens need a juice bar?
So it's for I haven't actually played the alien thing to know exactly. I just know that the answer, spoiler alert, is that like a plant is in charge.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't played it through, but it's like a really cool, like Old West theme. Like it's a really cool world. It looks like it's like Old West Oklahoma. With like that Victorian look, but also, like the saloons and stuff. But if you don't keep the one lot as a saloon and you switch it over to something else, it doesn't spawn the mother plant or something like that. I don't know. I kept it as a bar.
Right. You learned your lesson. So you talked a little bit about YouTube, and you mentioned that you follow a Filipino architect who has studied Japanese architecture. So talk to me about Sim's YouTube.
Sim's YouTube is a disaster, and it's wonderful. There are people who have millions of followers, and, there's different ways to do it. And I follow a variety of YouTubers for Sims content. Like one guy is a comedy YouTuber who, he plays all sorts of video games, but he plays The Sims as one of them.
Okay.
And he has like a character named Jim Pickens, who's like an old man.
Okay.
And just getting up to trouble all the time. And like he put, right now, Jim Pickens destroyed the world and started over again.
Okay.
And Shrek was there. I don't know. It's whole thing. So you've got the people like that though, right? Who are playing it and being silly. He has a knitting empire too. Because one of the packs is knitting.
Okay.
Because, you got with aliens.
Like the buildings are knitted?
No. You just knit.
You just knit. It's an activity you're buying for your Sims to do.
Yes.
Okay.
You knit. And you can sell it. One of the expansions allows you to have a retail store, so you can sell the stuff. But they also made a fake Etsy called Flopsy. Flopsy.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's those people, and then for the most part, I watch builders. So I watch the Filipino. His name's Freezer Bunny. His real name's Leo, but his username's like X Freezer Bunny X because he's been doing it since Sims 3 at the very least. I wasn't watching YouTube then, but he's been doing it for a while, so he has the funny, emo username. Everyone I watch the only one that I watch that's not in their 30s is the guy who does Jim Pickens. Like there is YouTube content for much younger folks, but like everyone I'm watching is around my age, which is what makes it cool. So we've got Freezer Bunny, we've got Hey Harry, who I talked about with the custom content. She's also a builder with a YouTube channel. That's actually how I got into her custom content. I want to pet him so bad. There's one woman, Plumbella. She's younger, but she's like another comedy person. And I don't watch anyone who's American now that I'm thinking this out loud. She's English. He's Irish. Freezer Bunny's Filipino. There's another English guy named Devin Bumpkin. His real name is Aiden, and I actually subscribe to him on Twitch. So he's the only one that gets my money. But because he's got a really good community, and we'll get back to that in a second. And I think and then Harry is from London. Her real name is Sam. She's from London, but like I said, they're all mid to late 30s, just like me. All people who had jobs before or continue to have jobs, with the exception of now Devin Bumpkin. He was a hairdresser. COVID happened. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to go back and was like, this is a good time to become a full-time YouTuber. But people like Plumbella, there's Call Me Kevin, there's some big other people in the community make a living, literally. But like Harry is, she's now a full-time content creator, custom content creator, but she was a cake maker.
All right. That makes sense. Those go together.
Yeah. So she was a cake maker. And and then, like I said, Freezer Bunny is an architect, like day job architect. So it's interesting to do that. But then Devin Mumpkin's on Twitch as well as on YouTube and streams a few times a week. And first time I ever got into streaming, first time I've ever subscribed to anybody, because he's got a really good community. He's everyone who watches like LGBTQ friendly and all of those things that are very important to me, but he's got a community of it. He's a gay man, which, some people are like, oh, that would be expected of The Sims, but because it's like a girlier game, right? So like, people stereotype it.
Sure.
So people stereotype it, but at the same time, like, he's very open about it, talks about his partner. And it's just very friendly and gets people involved, and made me feel comfortable enough to not only like start being involved and like admitting I play The Sims.
Sure.
Because like I didn't admit it until last year, maybe. I mean, I don't think it's something I talked about. Every so often I would joke about it, but like, no, I didn't talk about it like I do now.
No, you didn't.
No. And like, it was because of him that was just like, let your freak flag fly.
Yeah.
But someone that really cared and really used his platform also. It's like, yeah, I might be a small YouTuber. He's got less than 100,000, which for Sims YouTube is not that many people.
Right.
Less than 100,000, and he's just like, I'm going to use my platform for Black Lives Matter. I'm going to use my platform for, a whole bunch of people got together, a whole bunch of these YouTubers got together to petition EA for skin tones. Yeah. Right now, The Sims doesn't have good skin tones for darker skin.
Yeah.
So custom content also comes in the, like, how does your sim look, creative sim area. And textured hair. The base game came with the only textured hair looked like that default cauliflower look that all video games do for like default Black person hair. Devin, his real name is Aiden. Aiden, among others, was very vocal, like, especially because he used to be a hairstylist. He went through and critiqued the hair. It was like, hair doesn't do this. That's why I think custom content and everything is so important, is because they can at least fix latent issues. But the petition worked, and in the next month they're going to do not only add skin tones, but they're actually going to do like a color wheel so that you can actually tweak it the way you want to, instead of like just swatches at a paint store. It's an actual color wheel where you can balance it yourself. And that's because of the community. And that's why I was like, I want to get involved in the community.
Nice. So he has a nice community because he like really monitors the chat and kicks people out because he's got a paid Twitch and he doesn't let assholes in, or yes. And
there's that. And then he's got a Discord, which only people who subscribe can join.
Right.
So, there's only, I think, like 100 people in there, and not all active, obviously.
Yeah.
Getting that community and being vocal, like, he is not afraid. And there's a few other people who are not afraid either, but like, if people are being shitty in his comments, he calls them out.
Yeah.
And he knows he's got privilege as a white man to do that. Like, and that acceptance of his lot in life. I think his partner is like a doctor or something. He doesn't really talk a lot about his partner, which is fine. But like, he's got the ability to do this now full time because of his, life situation.
Sure.
So he's gonna, he's like, I know I'm privileged, and here's how I'm gonna work with that. And it's just a silly life simulation game. But if you can't simulate all of life, what's the point? Yeah. But that's why, I might just build, like, that might just be my thing, because it's a creative outlet for me, going from being like a trained artist to like having a real, like a real desk job, middle management thing. Yeah. I don't have a creative outlet. And especially I couldn't, my background being in game design and all that stuff, I can't sit down and design a game. Like, life.
Yeah. How are you going to raise a toddler and just like do some like casual game design? Right.
I mean, if I was a white man, I could, but I'm a lady.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation.
In 2020. So you're a builder in Sims. Yeah.
So my creative outlet is The Sims. So, and but because it's a life, you get to do stupid shit like Aliens and Star Wars, but like at its core, it's a life simulator. And if you only give people of color ashy skin, that's not the way it works. So, but they're acknowledging it, and they put out EA put out a Black Lives Matter statement and has been pretty vocal, which is another reason I like giving them my money.
So my two next questions, and you can pick which way we go. One is like, what do you hope will be on your Sims 5 dream feature list? What is there? And then my other question is, what haven't I asked you that's on that list that we should talk about? Mm-hmm. So you can pick a direction.
The dream feature, I don't have a dream feature as much as I hope for my loyalty and how much I've spent on Sims 4, that whether it be, I don't even know how they would do it, but I just want my loyalty to be rewarded, because it's so hard for me to come to terms with the idea. This is Sims 4 is the first time I've really sank money into it. Yeah. Sims 3, I maybe had like 6 or 7 little things. Sims 2, I think I had like 2 expansions. The first Sims I had Live in Large, which is my favorite expansion because of the name. Live in Large, it was just one of those things where, I didn't sink a lot of money. I have sank a butt ton of money into this game. I think
you're a grown-up business lady.
I'm a grown-up business lady, and I've chosen, and I don't regret. Yeah, and I don't regret any dollar that I spent, even if I complain about The Sims or, end up being like, oh man, I wish this could do more. I hope that my loyalty is somehow rewarded, because I don't want to, I really don't want to spend another $700 to get the experience I get now, which is very well-rounded. When the game first came out, it was not well-rounded. It was missing what some players believe were basic things, everyone's always been like, oh, you can put a sim in a pool and drown them. That's a meme, right? That's something everybody kind of knows about The Sims, is the weird ways that Sims die. And so if Sims 4 came out and they didn't have pools.
Right.
And that was because...
Was that real? Sims 4 came out without pools? And that was something they were well known for?
Yeah. So exactly. So there's trepidation with making a Sims 5, because if you think about it, the only reason the game feels so well-rounded is I have spent $700 on this game. And I don't want to go backwards. And there's people I think that the art style is Sims 4. There's 2 different mindsets. People like me really like the cartoony, okay, we're not going to make this uncanny valley. We're going to make sure, it's a video game. I enjoy that style. I enjoy how it's soft and it feels like clay. Is how I describe the art style of The Sims. And there's this idea of alpha, and alpha is literally you make it look real. And there's people who do that with their Sims. There's people who will download a shitload of custom content that looks alpha.
And they're able to do that in Sims 4 as well. So you do the softer build.
Yeah, the Maxis match, because it's the style of the game already.
Okay.
And Maxis was the original developer of Sims 4.
Okay. So you're hoping that there's some sort of way that you can have a loyalty.
Yeah,
almost a loyalty card that you take in, and you're blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. There was, and I think I felt really burned by another video game, Civilization. I played so much Civ 5, and I had all the expansions. And then when I bought Civ 6, and I spent the money. I bought the deluxe edition that was going to have expansions that okay, we know we're going to release expansions. You're paying for them in advance. And I played it maybe a weekend. And I was like, I'm really disappointed. And so I'm feeling a little burned by that too. Because I think Civ 5 is the best video game to ever be made. And I'm saying this on a thing where I've just talked for an hour and a half about The Sims.
Right.
It's not the best video game ever made. That other one is. And I feel really burned. So I'm one of the few people who probably doesn't want a Sims 5. Keep making this better, because I'm thrilled with how it looks. They've done some cool shit. One of the packs they came out with this year, it's called Eco Lifestyle. And literally you get to remake the world. The worlds look dirty. all the worlds start dirty and you can like clean them up, and teaching valuable lessons about keeping recycling going and, you know, all of these eco initiatives.
So you start with a Cleveland in the 70s and a burning river.
Yes, that's literally what one of the worlds looks like. Like I have like little Pinterest boards, right, for each of the worlds. And for that one, it's all Philadelphia and Cleveland, like is where I'm getting my build inspiration from, is like, you know, the Rust Belt in the 70s. Like that's what it starts with. And, you know, yeah, it's a gentrification simulator in some respects. And I get it, because controversial opinion, gentrification is bad, but also gentrification is not all bad. Some things about gentrification are good. Just, I don't want to call it that, because the other things about gentrification are awful.
Right. Right. There has to be a way to build a more accessible world, a cleaner world, a world with housing equity that also maintains original communities of a place. Yeah.
And I think Sims, you know, to an extent can help with that. I think like that's the next big step, that, you know, this was a small step to say, yeah, we believe in this stuff.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's what I want out of The Sims 5, is I want it to be showing us how to make that sustainable, equitable world.
Yeah. Like a model UN, but in Sims.
Give it to me. That's what I want out of Sims 5. I really, now that I've said it out loud, I want it to be a way for us to model the right way to do the world. Because if I started this at age 16, right? And I'm 36 now.
Yeah.
Like, just, that's a long time. But like 16 is a good age to start molding kids. Yeah, and right now it's a gentrification simulator because San Franciscans are making it.
Yeah.
Maybe with the whole new normal where we work remotely, we're able to get more developers that are people of color, and they're very accepting. Like the game is very accepting of LGBTQ, basically, where, you know, obviously don't care who you marry.
Yeah.
They put in a patch several years ago now where they allowed for non-binary characters, things like that, where it's like, how do you want your sim to dress? Do you want them to present masculine or feminine?
Okay.
Do you want them to be able to have a baby?
Oh, interesting.
So like, that's the way they handle it, right? Like they're like, you know, which way do you want to go with this? And there you go. You've got yourself representation. So they've done it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. The representation stuff they put in, the way they did it, they handled it was very respectful and very, I think, was embracing of the community. And I hope that we see that with their skin color. Yeah. You know, it sucks that it took so long to get there. It took 6 years.
Yeah. And if they're making a correction of that magnitude, that doesn't seem like you're going to drop Sims 5 in 6 months.
No. And that's the other reason everyone's like, oh, they should just stop end of life this thing, stop making expansions. It's like, no, let this game keep going and let them take 10 years to make Sims 5 for all I care.
Right. So you're using Pinterest to organize your planning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got boards. Like literally I have 2 things going on my Pinterest. I have all the recipes that we've tried and liked so that I can go back and write digital cookbook it. Yeah. And then I have boards with I learned about subboards and I was like, oh, life is better.
I didn't know there were subboards. I haven't been on Pinterest in like ages.
We talk about everything I had written down. Well, except for Sims Medieval, but like that was just going to be a jokey thing that we joked about. Did we talk about cow plants? Did we talk about all the weird shit? The weird shit.
You said there's an alien bar with a mama plant, but you didn't say anything about cow plants.
There's lots of really fun things in The Sims, like Easter eggy weird shit. So there's cow plants.
Okay.
Which I don't remember how you get a cow plant, but you eventually can get to a cow plant through like little tiny building your skills up and collecting things. We didn't even talk about how the game actually works. And you eventually can garden yourself a cow plant. And the cow plant exists. It looks like Audrey 2.
Yeah.
Except with cow print.
Yeah. I've just Googled it.
Yeah. And literally when you walk by it, it may or may not eat you. Yeah, that's a cow plant. And it may or may not eat you. And you'll see that it's been in several iterations of The Sims. So it's one of those always needs to be there.
So have you grown a cow plant?
I mean, yeah, I did in Sims 3. I don't think I've ever done it in Sims 4. I remember doing it in The Sims 3 because I named it Audrey.
Yeah.
So we'll go to some Frank Lloyd Wright houses, which
Have you built one?
I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I did one based on Philip Johnson's Glass House.
Okay.
And then my windows broke. Like literally, so like one of the, like, you know, like the long panel, Sims doesn't have that. So that's one of the things that Harry made. That's why I started paying money for her, because I was like, they make good shit. Beautiful, like, you know, panel. And like I had one side that was reflective because like they had a window mirror thing, you know, the one way. And I had a beautiful, it was like all, you know, I had looked at Philip Johnson shit for like 2 days. Yeah. I was like all proud of it. And then I finish it, I upload it, and the next day it breaks. Because I don't upload everything I do to the gallery because like I'm doing it for myself. Like for a while I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I remaking this world? No one's ever going to see it. I'm not popular. So like no one's going to download it. And then it took, you know, it was a really big step for me, like mentally be like, who gives a shit? You don't have to base your self on how many downloads you're getting. Like why was I even thinking that? Like,
yeah. Every hobby doesn't have to be a side hustle.
Yes.
It can just be a thing you love.
Yeah. And I think that's what, I mean, this isn't going to be a side hustle for you. This is because you love it.
Yeah. And
you're going to be sharing stories of people who love it too.
Yeah.
That's what I at least saw the point of all this was. You're like, I get to talk to people about things they love because we should all love stuff.
Yes. And because we should like embrace liking stuff. We don't have to have that like early cynical detachment. You can just love a thing and have emotions about it and feel the feelings and
be mad at it too. You can be critical on this stuff you love. Like the people right now with like justifying J.K. Rowling. I'm just like, and it's all people our age, right?
Yeah.
Between 30 and 45. Let's say it's all people who did not grow up with Harry Potter, but got Harry Potter in their late high school, early college.
Yeah.
And a little bit beyond are justifying it. They're like, oh, well, that's, you know, I can separate her from the book. And it's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And it's okay that I can't. I can still think Harry Potter's okay. It was never my favorite. I liked it, but I was always like, Narnia's the shit, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Narnia's way better than Harry Potter.
That's why Lucy is named Lucy.
Aww.
Part of it. Like, it was, you know, I knew it was going with an L name.
Yeah.
For my Uncle Larry. And Dan got to Luciana because he wanted her to have Lucy as a nickname, not a full name. But it was Lucy because of Lucy Pevensey.
Oh, I love that.
Because she's, I think, one of the best, you know, especially for children.
Yeah.
Characters, you know, she goes into that and isn't cynical.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what Edmund does, right? He goes in and he's immediately skeptical.
The only quibble I have with Narnia is the Turkish delight.
Oh, I know, right? The biggest con of our generation. Yes. I like Turkish delight. I don't like the rose flavored one, but I like pistachio and lemon.
Yeah, because I had a very long layover in Turkey once, and I was like, I'm going to buy Turkish. And I brought back giant boxes of Turkish delight and took it to the office. And it just sat there for like days because people were like, this is terrible. I'm like, no, it's from Narnia. Like, this is,
yeah, I would not betray my family for Turkish delight. I would betray my family maybe for like a really, really good dish, like handmade by Stephanie Izard. Maybe.
I would.
Or a spicy chicken nugget, McNugget right now, because you can't get them.
Yeah. Well, Adrienne, this has been a blast. And now that I know that Sims 4 is only a $5 commitment and would probably run on my computer. I have a MacBook, right? It works on that.
That's actually one of the other things we didn't really talk about, but like a lot of people complain that The Sims looks bad sometimes. Like if you preload it, it's because they want people of all computers to be able to load it. So they have a polygon count that they don't go above so that people with low end computers can run it. So yes, it'll run on your MacBook.
That's exciting because for the most part, I feel like the podcasts that I listen to when they start talking about video games, they're talking about games that are like a game system, a $70 first, like hundreds of dollars to get started.
Yeah, so, even something like Animal Crossing is hundreds of dollars to get started.
Right, because you got to get the Switch. And
as much as I love that game, I would never tell someone to go out and buy a Switch for it.
Yeah.
But I would tell everyone, you have a computer.
Yeah, you can try Sims.
$5. Try The Sims.
It's got to be better. Well, I mean, Best Fiends is pretty awesome, but...
Best Fiends, oh God, this podcast will kill you is how I found out about that one.
This podcast will kill you, yeah.
All podcasts.
They did... Best Fiends did like a very serious run of podcast advertising. Yes. I must have been... I don't know if it was at the beginning of COVID...
Right. I remember hearing it on the train, but it was this year. So
okay, yeah.
January, February.
Yeah. So a lot of days now I just go and collect my daily gift so that I can get to that day 24-hour bonus. Because usually I can turn a 24-hour bonus of free lives into like 72 hours.
Because it just because of
because you'll start
strategy.
Winning and I will pay. For Best Fiends for stuff, but
I haven't. But that's just because I've spent all my damn money
on Sims.
on the fucking Sims. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to talk about my silly video game.
It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.